Hardy Complex, back Radio 1, Podcast 1. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining me. I am very glad you could be joining me here now as we reach past and into the second hour of our show. We have a few more conversations to uphold with all of you. However, when it comes down to it, there is one big question that I tend to get, and it's more of a frequently asked question than it is a question for Hardy. The question is always tends to be wrestling related, obviously, and it's usually why I don't watch something when I watch so many other things. I like grunge music, but why do I listen to Nirvana and Alice in Chains and Soundgarden more than I do Pearl Jam and Stone Temple Pilots or Hole or anything like that? I like more kind of I like more of an underrated sound, like an up-and-coming kind of artist sound. So why do I listen to Snail Mail and Basement and She Pulled the Trigger more so than I do, Billie Eilish or blanking on the name. Yeah, I've completely blanked on the name. Why do I listen to an artist that is in the same genre as another, but at the same time not listen to that other musician at least a little bit, And I tend to get that question a lot, most often with wrestling. And the biggest question is, why do I not watch WWE's Raw and SmackDown broadcasts? And it's not that I just don't, or not that I just only don't watch Raw or SmackDown, but I also don't watch the weekly NXT shows. I don't tend to watch a few different WWE-specific shows. I don't watch 205 Live. A lot of people ask me the question as to why. I'm obviously a big wrestling connoisseur. I love wrestling. I wrestle myself. I review wrestling shows myself. I take into account a bunch of different, directions that promotions can go into in myself. I look into different strategies of booking, how I book for companies myself. So it's kind of like I do a bunch of different things revolving around professional wrestling. So why don't I watch arguably the biggest wrestling company in the world? And that is a good question. I find that a good question, primarily because it's got logic to it, I may have said many times before that the WWE's product has nothing new to take from it, and that I'm not a big fan of the WWE's product. But with that being said, I also watched TNA's Impact shows back when or Impact Wrestling's, but it was at the time TNA Impact Wrestling shows back in 2014, 2015, and those obviously didn't give you anything really worth the watch, and at the same time, I didn't really enjoy those shows either, but why did I watch them? Well, for starters, when it comes down to TNA at the same time, was because for a little bit of a portion of time, their TNA Impact broadcasts were also put on the same point in time, the same day and time as USW's Wednesday Night Intensity shows, so I just kind of wanted to see what we were working up against and seeing what other people would go to, and if there was anything that they would leave the broadcast to, and I would kind of jot it down. And there were a few points with that, but there were points nonetheless. So when it came down to it, the biggest question is, why don't I watch Raw and SmackDown? Well, in addition to Raw and SmackDown, I don't watch NXT, I don't watch 205 Live, I don't plan on watching Super Showdown. It's kind of a case of, more so, I've just been burned out with WWE. I expect the same thing over and over and over again. It's not, there is nothing new to watch on the weekly shows. There's nothing new to take away from it. It's not worth the effort to go through 3 hours of Raw, despite the fact that you're going to see Roman Reigns 4 times, Braun Strowman 3 times, Kevin Owens twice in the night, Sami Zayn twice in the night, Bobby Lashley 3 times in the night, Seth Rollins 4 times in the night, Dean Ambrose 3 times in the night. It's like they're utilizing the same characters over and over and over again and sprinkling a few different ones in there every, now or then, every here and there, but they don't really add in anybody else new. You're not seeing an Alicia Fox more than one time a night. You're seeing an Alexa Bliss more than one time a night, but you're not seeing an Alicia Fox more than one time a night unless there's an Alexa Bliss there with her. You're not seeing Tyler Breeze more than one time a night. Same could be said for a guy like Fandango. Same could be said for a guy like Kurt Hawkins. Same could be said for a guy like Mike Bennett. But when it comes down to it, my overall, hell, I've kind of fallen into the case of, I call him Kevin Owens now. I call him Sami Zayn now. I don't call him Kevin Steen and El Generico. I still call Mike Kanellis Mike Bennett. And that just goes to show how little he's been utilized, how little you see him. to the point where I've seen him so little, I don't even know what his fucking name is, because I just go back to whatever I heard it was last. And if I were to go into the name, if I were to start saying, hey, hello viewers, my name is Zachary Sarah, and this is blank, 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 you're going to be like, well, wait, why, what the fuck happened to the Zach Hardy thing? You know, what happened to that name? You know, so it comes down to kind of something like that, but at the same time, I've just been burned out. There's not much to take away from it, sure, there's not anything new really, but at the same time, it's not worth the effort anymore. You know, they don't put effort into their shows. Raw, you know, they don't try with Raw. They don't try with SmackDown. You know, if they have something good fall into their lap, they'll utilize it and they'll beat that horse until it's dead. Hell, look what they do with R-Truth. He's probably one of the funniest comedic wrestlers in wrestling today. And at the same time, he's been that way for like the past 5 years, but until this whole thing with pinning Carmelo, you know, took over, they didn't really beat everything into the horse. You know, they'd have him do his, I'm going to be in this ladder match. You're not even scheduled for the show. You're actually supposed to be on the other side of the country in that time of the show. Oh, my bad. Like, they utilize that from every so on and so forth, but, you know, they didn't beat it into the ground. They're doing that with Carmella now, despite the fact that it's still funny for the moment. They did that with Carmella, they're doing it with Carmella, and they do that with a litany of different things. So, the way I look at it is Raw and SmackDown are just kind of a repeat of everything that's been happening. And unless they have something good accidentally fall into their laps, they're just going to do the same thing over and over again. You saw Finn Balor face Baron Corbin over and over and over again. You had Roman Reigns and Braun Strowman try to kick each other's asses over and over and over again. And back in the early stages of 2017, the whole case was Braun Strowman wanting to kill Roman Reigns and not stop it until Roman Reigns was dead. And then once Braun Strowman got fit into his oversized casket, he would still not be done with Roman Reigns. He'd break through the wood, climb through the dirt, and keep beating the shit out of Roman Reigns' corpse. You get that fucking point. There's not much to take away from it, sure, but at the same time, it's not worth the effort to begin with. And at the same time, there's not anything worth the effort as well. You know, Samoa Joe versus AJ Styles was something great. It fell into their laps. You know, they got lucky. And they've been utilizing it. And they've somehow they've utilized it correctly. And they have the same thing with Daniel Bryan and The Miz. They just got lucky that 8 years ago they decided to pair those two together. You know, it was a bad decision at the time, but, you know, it had its benefits. You know, but that's pretty much that. The WWE is the most stubborn wrestling company in the world. You know, they're going back to Saudi Arabia, despite the fact that, you know, if Alexa Bliss were to show up to Saudi Arabia, she'd be tried for being a woman without a man within 5 feet of her. She'd probably, a bunch of Saudis would probably fucking gang rape her and then throw her in prison because of, you know, their laws and regulations. And obviously, you can't blame the people of Saudi Arabia. They've been attuned to this, so it's kind of like natural to them. It's like we look at what people in England go through with constant security, footage recording them at all points in time. We look at that as completely unnormal. You know, we don't look at a street light and expect to see a camera, but that's what we've been attuned to. You know, we've been attuned to not feeling like we're being watched at every step of the way, despite the fact that sometimes it can feel like that. Well, the people of Saudi Arabia had been attuned to what their laws were. You know, I've grown up with these laws. They think they're normal, just like we think some things we do are normal. You know, we look at soccer, and we go, oh yeah, soccer, that's alright. That's not normal to a million other people, but it's normal to us. And the same applies to everybody. So you can't really blame the people of Saudi Arabia, you just have to blame the government. But at the same time, then you have to blame the WWE for understanding what this government does and understanding what the fucking repercussions of this government is, and then deciding to go back there to fucking fix your bottom line. I swear to God, the WWE will die eventually. It's natural. That's how it's going to happen, and it's always going to happen. But that's just how it happens, you know. It's kind of a fucking shitty situation for them. But the fact of the matter is, they want the bottom line. They want the money. They don't want us, you know, dip into the red for those shows. So if they're gonna pay them a shit ton of money, they're gonna fucking do it. That's how it's gonna work. And the WWE will die eventually because they'll, you know, have their assets starved. A lot of people say, oh, New Japan and Ring of Honor will never beat out WWE. Well, I'm not saying they have to, but at the same time, you know, they should, because of the fact that it's supposed to, that's how the world works. You know, that's how natural business politic and how natural business is done. You know, if you're a company that's weak and can't, you know, afford the people that use your services as much as another company can, then you deserve to have those people leave your company and go to another. You know, if you're giving them what they need, and if you're giving them what they want, and you're making them happy, you know, you're giving them something as opposed to nothing. And at that point in time, you deserve to lose your customers, or the people that are subscribed to your company, if you're obviously not giving them as much as another promotion can or another company can. And that's how it's supposed to work, even for the biggest monopolizations in the industry. Eventually you run out of that money. You know, what do you think fucking happened to Pan Am? Pan Am ruled the roost of the airline company, but then somebody came along with something a little bit better, came along with something a little much more enjoyable. You know, in-flight entertainment, or AKA high-flying wrestling, AKA storytelling, something that the WWE cannot offer you. Something that Pan Am couldn't offer anybody. And guess what? Pan Am doesn't exist anymore. Their building is owned by MetLife now. And they are looked at as a footnote in history. The same will happen to the WWE. That's how it works. And I don't enjoy it because they know that. They realize that. And they have absolutely no respect for themselves. It's a case of they don't care what the rules of business are. They want to make as much money as they can right now. And that's it. Fuck everybody else that has to feed their kids. Fuck everybody else that has to make a living, that has to pay the bills. They don't matter. Are you kidding me? No, they don't fucking matter. You wanna know what does matter, though? Saudi Arabians' money. You know what else does? Australia's money. You know what else does? A shit ton of other sources. Outsources? What would you say? Sources of profit. You know, merchandise, live events, ticket sales. You know, the shit that doesn't fucking matter. Yeah. Sorry, I'm going on another rant. Fact of the matter is, I don't watch the weekly shows because there is no effort worth watching the weekly shows by, because there's no effort put into the weekly shows. You know, you don't leave a Raw or SmackDown and most often time go, that was a good show. You know, you most often go, okay, Brie Bella got another person almost killed again. Okay, Roman Reigns won another match. Okay, Braun Strowman destroyed another thing. Okay, Seth Rollins closed out another show with a great match that will go absolutely nowhere again. Awesome. AJ Styles got choked out by Samoa Joe again. Samoa Joe wants to be AJ Styles again. You know, Samoa Joe wants to fuck Wendy, or AJ Styles' wife, and wants to parent his kid. That's alright, cool. That's it. That's pretty much that. That's the effort. It's alright, we'll do this. Then we'll do this. Then we'll do this. Then we'll do this. Then we'll do this. What next? This. That's how it works. And there's no effort put into it, so why should I put in the effort to watch the shows? That's my mindset. Anyway, we're gonna breach past, yeah, Hardy Complex back at 60, I guess.